Madam Charlotte Morganasidu, Chief Director of Ministry of Information, representing the Minister, the Director General of Ghana Kofi Annan Center of Excellence, Dr. Colin Siebua Aferi, President of the Ghana Institute of Public Relations Ghana, Mauku Afajinu, the distinguished panelists, Ms. Adelaide Abiy Williams, Madam Sophia Kujoji, I hope I said your name right, Mrs. Nana Esilfua Tamaklo, Emma Wenani, our partners and friends from the media, ladies and gentlemen. Today, as we gather here to celebrate and participate in this festival summit as part of our observance of this year's World PR Day, I am deeply privileged, excited, and honored to welcome all of you, esteemed professionals and business owners and leaders who stand at the forefront of the evolving business and communications landscape. This year's theme, which is very relevant as the practice of PR is under siege from weakening global economic conditions, transformative technical change, and increasingly adoption of artificial intelligence and generative AI, including the now famous ChatGPT. In today's 10,000 messages, which include emails, text messages, social media notifications, news alerts, and more. These messages come from friends, family, colleagues, businesses, organizations, and sometimes other unwanted sources seeking our attention. In this era of profound connectivity and overflow of information, our role in public relations has never been more crucial. We are no longer mere communicators. We have evolved into architects of narratives and agents of change with far-reaching influence that spans individuals, organizations, and societies. Yet, as we wield this influence, we must remember that with such formidable power comes substantial responsibility. Our actions and words carry weight and transparently. As leaders and influencers, we have to utilize this power wisely, ethically, and transparently. We must strive to foster trust, build strong relationships, and engage with authenticity. By doing so, we have the ability to nurture meaningful connections, bridge divides, and give voice to the marginalized and underrepresented. We also have to emotionally connect with our audiences, foster genuine engagement and loyalty. We have to embrace innovation and adapt to the changing communication landscape, which in the future may be shaped by and with technology. Yes, technology is transforming the way we interact, consume information, and engage with brands. We are increasingly leveraging social media platforms, artificial intelligence, and other tools to amplify our messages, reach wider audiences, and drive measurable impact. As we dialogue today, let us remind ourselves that the transformative power of public relations resonates across all domains. There are no borders when it comes to PR. In the realm of politics, effective PR campaigns have played pivotal roles in shaping public opinion, mobilizing voters, and fostering democratic participation. We have witnessed how well-crafted messages and strategic communication have influenced elections and policy decisions, giving voice to the aspirations and concerns of. In the realm of religion, public relations has facilitated interfaith dialogues, promoting and understanding and fostering peaceful coexistence. Through effective communication, PR professionals have helped bridge divides, dispel misconceptions, and promote harmony amongst diverse religious communities, nurturing a climate of tolerance and respect. When it comes to environmental issues, public relations has been instrumental in raising awareness, driving sustainable practices, and inspiring collective action. From campaigns advocating for renewable energy to initiatives encouraging responsible consumption, PR professionals have harnessed the power of communications to mobilize individuals, organizations, and governments towards a greener, more sustainable future. These examples highlight the immense impact that PR can have in addressing everyday issues and series. We began a series of seminars, including a masterclass for startups, in collaboration with the Cosmos Innovation Center. This was more than a simple information session. It was a crucial place to understand the power of public relations. We delivered insights and strategies on how entrepreneurs can harness PR to amplify their brand's voice, establish credibility, and accelerate their growth trajectory. Next, we hosted a highly relevant session on PR and sustainability, focusing on environmental issues and the role PR can play in turning the tide towards a greener and more sustainable society. This session highlighted the responsibility of PR professionals, not just in promoting products and brands, but in shaping public discourse and driving collective action towards pressing global challenges. Our journey continued with a session on PR and the economy, shedding light on the significant role of public relations in influencing economic decisions. This session underscored the power of strategic communication in shaping investment behavior, fostering a conducive business environment, attracting foreign direct investment, and ultimately driving economic growth. Lastly, we dedicated a session to PR and women, celebrating the tremendous achievements of female professionals in our industry. This was not just a commemoration, but a dialogue on how we can continue to break down barriers and empower more women to thrive in the public relations sector and in business as a whole. It is my hope that participants in these sessions can draw inspiration from the series as we embark on this journey of leveraging technology, human expertise, and the power of public relations to shape a future that generations to come will be proud of. The dialogues we've had and today's festival provides us with an extraordinary opportunity to bring ourselves together to truly harness the power of public relations. Before I conclude, I would like to emphasize once again that this festival
I know quite a number of us who are here will be saying, well, PR Day is actually on the 16th. So what's going on? Well, let me give you a little brief. Truly, on July 16th each year, the world celebrates and recognizes public relations and communications. It is a day when professionals come together to have a unified global agenda towards making the world understand and utilize PR better. True. This year's WPRD Festival campaign was started in May. Now, let me tell you, in 3 phases, we had to organize this. First, we started with the Twitter Spaces. We had Slash events and the Festival Summit that's taking place today at the Ghana India Kofi Annan Center of Excellence in ICT. So we had to make it a festival because if we want to harness the power of public relations, we need to make the noise. We need to really amplify the efforts of PR professionals. So the festival was on, it started in May, and we're concluding it in this July. We are looking forward to another festival next year, and with most of you participating both in cash and kind. So we're going to be hearing a message from our host, but before he comes, I would like to ask that we take a short musical interlude before he arrives. And this is when I get to say that we have got the restrooms to your left. You could, if you just move out of the exit, you find the place. And then get to know each other a little bit before the panel discussion starts, when we get to not to talk to each other at all. So please, Mr. D, our music breather. Thank you. A warm round of applause as we receive her.
Thank you, Madam MC. The President of the Institute of Public Relations, Ghana, Mr. Mauko Afajinu, the Director General of the Kofi Annan Center for Excellence, Dr. Collins Yeboah Afari, CEO of Global Media Alliance, Mr. Enes Boateng, esteemed practitioners of the public relations community, our distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, our partners, the media. It gives me great pleasure to be here to represent the Honorable Minister of Information, Honorable Kojo Opong Nkrumah, MP for Ofuase Ayrebi constituency. He would have very much liked to be here with you, but other important engagements have taken his time. So because of that, because of the importance he attaches to this program, he asked me to represent him. The World Public Relations Day holds a significant importance as we come together to celebrate our esteemed professionals and reflect on the profound impact of public relations in shaping our society. The chosen theme for this year's celebration, Harnessing the Power of Public Relations, perfectly captures the immense potential within this field. Public relations at its core is both an art and a science. Dedicated to building relationships, it serves as a bridge that fosters understanding among governments, organizations, individuals, and the wider public. Speaking specifically about governance, public relations plays a pivotal role in empowering citizens to actively participate in nation-building process. It encourages dialogue, solicits feedback, and facilitates meaningful engagements. The Ministry of Information exists to facilitate free flow of adequate, timely, and reliable information and feedback between government and its various public for socio-economic empowerment and enhanced democratic citizenship. By incorporating public perspectives and involving them in decision-making, public relations strengthens the democratic fabric of our nation and instills a sense of ownership among citizenship. Today, we are truly humbled to be amidst professionals who play a crucial role in our country. As we celebrate the World Public Relations Day, it is imperative that we recognize the remarkable individuals who tirelessly work in this field. You are the guardians of truth, advocates of meaningful dialogue, and possessors of the unique ability to shape opinion, influence policy, and foster societal harmony. Your dedication and expertise are invaluable assets, and as we strive for a more informed and inclusive world. In Ghana, public relations professionals have contributed significantly to the socio-economic development of the country. A classic example is during the COVID-19 pandemic, which took the world by surprise. Government, realizing the power of crisis communication, strategically positioned PR offices across the district, regional, and national communication structures to inform the public about the pandemic and also persuade them to follow the WHO published protocols. As we harness the power of public relations, let us remain steadfast in our commitment to ethics, responsibility, and integrity. We must ensure that public relations never becomes a tool for manipulation and deception. Rather, it should be a force that amplifies authenticity, empowers the voiceless, and upholds the values of honesty and transparency. It is worth noting, though, that there are challenges confronting the public relations sector. People do not understand the concept of the profession, though they are engaged in it on a daily basis. And this limits the level of appreciation of the role of the public relations. Another challenge worth discussing is the emergence of the new media. Whilst the traditional media may be controlled, it is very difficult to control the new media because of the facelessness. People are too quick to create and react to things in real time, giving practitioners little or no time to do crisis communication and management. It is one of those challenges that contributes to misinformation and disinformation globally. As you may be aware, government, through the Ministry of Information, is facilitating the passage of a law to regulate especially content and general broadcasting in Ghana. I'm sure this law, when passed, will come in handy since broadcasting is one of the strategic media used by PR professionals to inform public. I want to assure practicing bodies present here that government will not renege on its resolve to create the needed environment for public relation practitioners to freely practice in their profession in Ghana. On this very significant occasion, we acknowledge the significant contributions to public relation officials to the socio-economic process of Ghana. Before I conclude, I'd like to express my gratitude to Global Media Alliance for providing this platform that allows communicators to openly dialogue, network, and build strong bonds within our community. Extending celebration into a 3-month festival exemplifies their dedication to creating a vibrant and visible community. I am really impressed that this celebration is spread over 3 months. I think it will be ample time to go around the whole hog. Congratulations to Global Media Alliance. On this World Public Relations Day, let us appreciate the transformation power of public relations and its positive impact on our society. Together, let us continue to harness this power to build bridges, inspire change, and shape a brighter future for all. As a Ministry of Information, we pledge our unwavering support to promote and uphold the ethical practice of public relations, recognizing its potential to create a more connected and harmonious world. Thank you all, and may we steadfastly harness the power of public relations for the betterment of our society. We wish you all a fruitful deliberation. Thank you, and may God bless us all.
Thank you very much, Madame Charlotte. Thank you. We've gotten to the crux of the event today. And we have a moderator for the panel discussion. Let me give you a brief around this person. We tried to make it really concise, but he's got quite a lot on here. His name is Philip Kofi Ashon. Philip is an award-winning communicator with extensive experience in brand building, media and stakeholder relations, digital communications, and audio-visual production. He is a trained multimedia journalist with over 14 years of combined experience in filmmaking, radio and television production, strategic online and new media management, and photography. Philip was the head of new media at Omni Media, operators of CTTV and CTFM. He previously served as the company's head of TV production, online editor, operations manager, head of events, as well as City Trends. He holds a master's degree in international journalism from Cardiff University, UK, in 2018 and 2019, he was adjudged the Local ICT Journalist of the Year in Ghana. Philip is a technology writer and enthusiast. Ladies and gentlemen, with a warm round of applause, let me welcome Philip Kofi Ashon.
Good morning. Good morning. It's kind of weird because usually I'm the one saying what she's saying. But yeah, we're going to have a conversation around harnessing the power of PR. And I have a very, very distinguished lineup of panel members. I'm going to introduce them briefly, and they would take their seats and join me up here. So our very first panel member, she is the Chief Corporate Communications Officer of the Jospon Group of Companies. Her name is Sophia Kudoji, and she's a senior public relations expert and a multi-award-winning communication leader with a strong track record of building the function and teams at some of Ghana's leading organizations, and quite a number of them here: Ghana News Agency, Volta Region Community Water and Sanitation Agency, the British High Commission, UT Holdings, and so much more. So with a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome on stage Sophia Kudoji. My second panel member is currently the Director, Marketing and Corporate Relations at Absa Bank, Ghana. She has over 25 years of combined experience in brand marketing and communication, external relations, CSR management, consumer services, and quite a bit. Please help me welcome on stage Nana Esilfua Tamaklo. Now my next panel member is someone we tend to meet very often in the same spaces. And I remember sometimes when I see her, I don't remember her name, and then it gets all weird. She is a communication professional, dabbles in public relations, digital marketing, project management, and so on. And she has over 10 years of experience working in different capacities at the senior management level in many consulting and media firms. Now, my next panel member is passionate about communication, personal development, and mentorship. Please, with a round of applause, help me welcome on stage Emma Onani. And my final panel member is currently the CEO of SES HD Plus Ghana Limited, a subsidiary of SES, a global leading satellite connectivity solutions, involved in several commercial roles across FMCG, manufacturing, and telecommunications. With a round of applause, please welcome on stage Adelaide Ahovi Abiu Williams. And I think where I want to begin is on this issue of harnessing the power of PR. I think I would want to take initial comments from Omar. What do you think? What is the one thing when you think about the power of public relations? What's the one thing that for you comes to mind? Let's start with you.
Okay, thank you. So for me, it's the power to be able to control the narrative and put a brand into the right perspective and the right light.
I'll come back to you on controlling the narrative because it has a lot of questions around it, the controlling of the narrative. Emma, what is your take on this power of public relations? Just one that comes to mind.
For me, it's about being able to tell your story. And I don't want to repeat what Abigail said by controlling the narrative, but being able to tell your story and putting your brand out there the way you want it to be seen.
Yes. The ability to use communication to actually shape and then influence perceptions. That's really, for me, at the core of it, because at the end of the day, it just helps to shape the perceptions and then the influence behavior.
Thank you very much. I would say that for me, public relations is basically about building relationships. Building relationships using your communication skills, telling compelling stories, and using that to build other people up or building organizations up basically,
So-
building relationships.
So do you subscribe to the idea of controlling the narrative as well? Because it does come across, on the face of it, it does come across as, and it's, for most government spokespersons, it always becomes a tagline, oh, they are, giving us something that they shouldn't give us, or there's something else happening in the background and we're trying to control what the people are thinking. It always has this very unfortunate negative connotation around it. And I'm just wondering if, at the heart of it, is that what PR is? Is just controlling what people are supposed to think?
It depends on how you want to put it. If talking about controlling the narrative means telling the story from my side and the way I want people to appreciate it, I will control it any day. Trust me, because if you don't tell your story, others will tell it from the way they understand it. It is my responsibility to tell it in such a way that you appreciate and make meaning as I want you to. So I think that that is why Africa is the way we are today. The world projects us as hungry, weak, I don't want to use...
and the others.
Yes, But until we begin to tell our stories from our perspectives and the way we want people to appreciate it, then people will continue to tell our stories for us and they will mess it up. So it is important that we control the narrative and make it the way we want people to see it. It doesn't mean that is why the ethics comes in. You tell it in an ethical manner. You don't tell lies. You tell the story as it is.
As it is.
But then you tell it the way you want people to see it.
Nana, where then does that split between the reality of the situation and the perceived reality of the situation comes in? Because then it becomes a bit of a challenge. It's almost as if any time I hear something from a PR executive, there is a reality behind it because you are sharing a story with me instead of what the actual reality is. So that dichotomy between the reality and the perceived reality, because in everything we do, we want to put across our best foot. We want to put our best foot forward. But then we've gotten to this point where in the minds of people, anytime we hear a PR executive speaking, it is most often along the lines of being given a perceived reality instead of what the actual reality is. And how do we, in this day and age with all these social media and digital platforms, how do we navigate those very choppy waters? Because honestly, it's very confusing.
Yeah, indeed, what Safar said and what you asked about, in this age where we have social media, sometimes even putting the story ahead of the organization, it's a really complex, system that we are running. The ecosystem now is a lot more complex than it used to be. However, to the point that Safar was making, you still need to own the narrative. Obviously, sometimes when a PR person comes, to the fore, the word probably the control is what might be the word that you might want to maybe look at how you position it. But I think the whole essence is to own the story, tell the story from my perspective, and ensure that what I'm putting across reflects the reality. But then that brings in the issue of trust. Because for every time that a PR person speaks or puts
storytelling, and it becomes its word now, everybody's telling one story, and even the social media platforms that have stories, so they're literally telling your story as you go along. But I mean, from an effective storytelling point of view, what's for PR practitioners in this room, and if I may use the word controlling your narrative, what are some of those things that for you should be the key things? Like, if you have a checklist, what are some of the things that should be top on that checklist when you are in that position to tell the story of a business, a company, or a brand?
For me, the beauty of storytelling, even if we go back to the traditional setting where maybe you're sitting in the village with your grandmother and she's telling you a story, is a place where I want to start for the PR people. You need to be able to know your audience first. So because once you know your audience, you're able to tap into their emotions. You're able to tell the story for them to understand and for them to relate as if they're part of it. So knowing your audience is very important. Secondly, tapping into their emotions. And also as PR professionals, another thing we also need to employ is being able to control the narrative arc. So for example, with each story, there's the introduction. So the way you introduce the story you're telling about a particular brand. So if I'm speaking about Global Media Alliance, for example, I will tell the introduction of Global Media Alliance, I will give the body about Global Media Alliance, and there'll be a conclusion. So as a PR person, you need to be able to control that narrative arc so that people can be able to move along with you. Luckily, we'll be able to employ different formats. And here with formats, I think PR has moved from being a very traditional practice to even now encompassing very modern ways of doing things. So as opposed to just using a press release as a traditional way of doing things, now we have picture stories. You can be able to tell how the World PR Day event has gone just by having a picture story. From the very beginning to when the CEO of Global Media Alliance spoke, to when the guest of honor spoke, to when there was a panel discussion, and you're telling all this through pictures. So this is also another way you can be able to tell your story using visuals. And then the final thing I can be able to say is you need to be able to control the narrative of the story. So in tapping into people's emotions, you're able to tell, okay, right now, are they upset at something? And if they're upset, the way you're going to communicate definitely will be different from the way you'd communicate if they're excited. So you need to be able to know how to do that.
At which point does it stop being, at which point does it become manipulating people's perception? At which point do you, because like I do documentary, and the importance, for example, of a certain kind of music being introduced at a certain point in time in the story to make people have a certain feeling. At which point do you draw that line between you manipulating what you understand as what people are expected to feel and being as truthful as possible to the essence of the story you're telling?
PR is not manipulation. Definitely. PR is totally not manipulation. I'd say because we are also human beings and we know how we want to be communicated to, that is how we are able to tell if I use this particular music in my documentary or if I use this particular story on my Instagram stories, I'll be able to relate better with people. So for example, if I'm putting a picture of me celebrating my birthday, the kind of tempo in my story is going to be different from if I'm doing a picture of me at the beach, for example, or a sad occasion. So it's not about manipulating. It's about putting yourself in the shoes of that person and asking yourself, okay, Emma, if you're on the other side, how would you want to be communicated to in this way? So it's not about manipulating the person at all. It's definitely about being able to control their emotions to know that if they want to understand this message, this is a particular visual, imagery, sound that I should be able to use.
So what it then means, there's a lot of attention you need to pay to the sensibilities and the sensitivities of the community you're trying to reach out to. And actually, that's where I want to bring you into the conversation as well, because we have so many different platforms through which we receive information about the public we are trying to communicate to. It is unimaginable being able to pay attention to all of this. What are some of those unique challenges that you perceive as what PR practitioners today face? And how do you think we can work our way around it with using those same platforms? Because the information is constantly coming in. It never stops. And it changes literally every day. Right now we have to deal with threads. And some people don't even know what threads are in this room. But how do we balance all of that? Because it seems so much is coming in all the time, and we need to be constantly reacting to all of that. And as PR practitioners, that's quite a headache to keep up with.
Yes, I agree. Today, the media is fragmented. However, if you have a strategy, and I'm speaking from a business perspective, from a business point of view, you have your objectives, right? So based on that, you're able to identify your target and then couch your message and position yourself. And it's not every platform that suits a particular objective. So it's also knowing your audience and the right way to reach them. We also see that the news cycles are changing frequently. And so it becomes important to be able to follow the news and tap into the trends of the news to be able to meet our audience at the right, in the right frame of mind. So for example, let me use Hilda Baci. When she was doing her cookathon, right? This was something that I believe the whole social media audience in Ghana was following. So if you wanted to break some news around that time that was happening, then you need to ask yourself, how do I also then align myself with what everybody is following? So for me, it's, as I said, it's about knowing your audience, positioning yourself, and using the right platforms to be able to deliver your message.
If I may come to you on the issue of ethics, we seem to cross it every day. We seem to be blurring the lines literally every day. Where, once again, where do we draw the line?
See, when you talk about ethics, the first thing that comes to my mind is what values did we grow up with? You understand? Ethics is basically working with a moral background, having some morals in mind. You're looking at how transparent you can be, not forgetting that you have confidentiality clauses in some of the things that you do. So you are as transparent as you can be about what you're saying. That is when you tell somebody something, they will believe you or not believe you. Because this person, whenever they say things, you can't be too sure. But there is the need for transparency, integrity. Now, we think we are just talking about PR practice for our organizations. Myself, as a person, how do people know me? Do I have integrity? If I have integrity and I'm speaking for my company, people will see integrity in what I'm saying. I can't be all over the place. When I tell people, oh, sit down, and somebody says, did she say you should sit down? Please run. Then the next minute I come and tell you another story and say that, oh, we are this. No. The person must reflect the company. So when you talk about ethics, you're looking at how transparent we are, how integral we are, how trustworthy we are. And in this day and age, you're looking at as communicating with people, thinking about the future, thinking about the person. It's not just about the business. You're dealing with people. What am I telling the people? Ethics is all about how you make life better for the person you're speaking to. Speaking truth, speaking care, speaking justice. How fair am I? Whatever I am saying, if it is about me, will I be happy? I mean, back in the days, we say that, hey, this woman, we can't go and buy the kimchi because the kimchi, where they cooked it. And the question I ask myself is, what I'm selling outside, will I eat at home? That's ethics. I just want to break it down to the barest minimum for all of us to understand.
No, and it is. It is. It's just, you can be known for one thing. The business you work for can be known for another.
That's right.
And so when you are caught in that space, what do you leave? Because there is obviously going to be a certain conflict at a point in time where what you are saying and what the business you represent is also saying are at variance.
We find ourselves in such situations most of the times, every now and then. Because I remember back in the days at UT when we said we should do an advert, and we had the monkey, a smiling monkey. I don't know how many of you, it's a chimpanzee. I don't know how many of you remember that advert. I was so strong on that thing and said, no, Chief, we can't do this. I told the board, no, we can't do this. Because why? Outside, they call us the monkeys. So why do we project ourselves as such? And then my boss said, Sophia, think about it. Every advert is about a man and a woman or their children and all that. Let's do something, think of, outside the box. Let's have something that keeps people talking. And I said, oh, but chief, monkey, chimpanzee. He said, think about it. A chimpanzee always has a very serious face. But here we are with a chimpanzee that smiles. What does that mean? We want to be different. After fighting and fighting and fighting, I sat back and thought about it. Realistically, nobody sees a chimpanzee smiling. So you see it and you are wondering, which story is this? So I went behind. I didn't like the idea initially. I had to go back, look at what is a chimpanzee. What are some of the qualities of a chimpanzee? And I realized that, look, they are very caring. They are very, agile, very flexible, and all that. So one day, my boss had me tell some students who had come to ask, we had so many questions about that. Some students coming to ask me, so why a chimpanzee? Why, Then I took my time, I explained. My boss was standing, I was like, huh? Sophia, are you the one defending the chimpanzee like that? There are times you think about it and know that it's not about your person. Yes, you have to reflect what you're talking about, but you have to think through it. I've spoken about transparency, but there is also the bit about confidentiality. How do you marry the two? In this day and age, we are talking about diversity, equity, and inclusivity. Okay. You know what I'm talking about, right? Thank you very much. Now, I would say that how do we as African companies practice that based on our culture? Because if we are not careful, you want to go and do diversity, equity, and inclusivity, and you are going with the flow. But as a people, what do we also believe in? And so that is where sometimes that dichotomy is. But as an individual, you need to think about it. How does it affect me? If you think it is too much, if you are being forced to lie, because under no circumstance should you lie. If you think you are being forced to lie, and that is something you cannot do, you walk out quietly. Sometimes it is better to keep your name. What does the good book say? Good name is better than riches. Even though if you get the two, it's not a bad idea to be rich and have a good name as well.
No. At certain points when Sophia was speaking, she spoke about making certain decisions. For example, that sometimes crosses over into a marketing director's, and a lot of PR practitioners do end up in those conflict positions with marketing executives and marketing directors. How do we work our way around either getting them into the conversation or being a part of their conversation as well, and making sure that as PR, I know you didn't, as PR executives, we are properly positioned to ensure that the reputation of the business that we represent are properly aligned with the business?
Very good question. And I think from where I sit, there isn't a conflict at all. Why do I say so? For a commercial organization, the focus is the one person, the customer. That's all there is. The focus is the one person, that's the customer. And in this case, it could be an individual customer, or even if from a PR perspective, purely PR perspective, you are dealing with an institution. That institution, in essence, is a customer. And what we do with customers to ensure that we either attract, we nurture them, and we maintain them, so we get a share of mind. This is it. Your stakeholders want a share of your mind. That's all you want. So for me, there isn't a conflict about bringing a PR professional into the fray or communication strategist into the fray. They've got to be integrated. You cannot run a commercial institution, for those of us from a commercial, you cannot survive if the arms are not integrated. Because the whole essence is, the purpose of the organization is one. The strategies that I put together should have because traditionally you say the marketing person is promoting actually a product or a service, and then you say a typical PR definition you would have said is actually just networking and managing the stakeholders to manage the image or the reputation of an organization. But remember that the one promoting the product or the service is actually also telling a story. It's about the same brand. So I just translate a brand promise into a product or a service. What is the PR person doing? Is also telling a story about the organization that is promoting the same product and service. So if they are not integrated, so that you understand what the purpose is of the organization, the brand purpose and its promise in itself is, so that we can also leverage on all of that to promote the brand to the stakeholder or the consumer. This is where you're bound to sometimes have a conflict. So they must be integrated. That's why we will call it marketing and a communication plan. It's not a marketing plan. It is a marketing and a communication plan. And we take that out and we'll develop what you call a go-to market. So once I'm going to market, we are all going to the market, but we're singing from the same brief. That's why you avoid conflicts or everybody going in different directions, because they've got to be integrated.
And when you do get into those positions of conflict, because they do come up, the marketing team probably wants to go in a particular direction that may not necessarily fully integrate with what the business potentially stands for. When you, and as PR practitioners, when we do get into those potential conflict situations, what's the best way around it?
In the first place, if I'm going to market with something, we cannot get into conflict, because remember, we're promoting the same. The only thing that happens is in every operation, sometimes issues occur. And when issues occur, the best thing is, because you work together, it's easy for a PR practitioner then to go out and own the narrative around it. Because remember, you integrated and you worked together, you understood the brief together, and you developed the plan together. So issues happen. Any operation, sometimes gets into issues now and then. But if we are on the same team and we understand the brief, it's easy then for the PR person to actually do what we'll call the issues management, but that's not, as you said, manipulative. That's actually just owning the narrative and then telling the story from our point of view as we know it.
I was wondering if you had like an example, through your years of experience that you could share with us.
Yes, we've recently been in the news for the wrong reasons. There was a fraud issue and there was a tabloid, that's a sensational one of that put us in the front page, But my issue is, what I tend to know is that if an organization has built trust, and actually what was in there was quite damaging, because we have data privacy issues that were, unfortunately exposed, which is not the best, because we have a fiduciary duty to protect the data of your customers. But one of the things that I keep saying, that when an organization has already built integrity in the minds of people, when such occurrences do happen, and they do, in every operation sometimes these things do happen, it's a lot more easier when you put a narrative forward, you understand, for the public to believe in you. Because if you're constantly in the news for the right reasons, then I guess that becomes a real challenge. But that's why I keep saying that. I think earlier on you were talking about the different news feeds, coming to you so constantly at different times. You can be a bit distracted if you do not have your own strategy and your own plan. Right. Because then you are responding to anything and everything that lands. That's not it. You must constantly have your own positive narrative that you're telling about the organization, what your organization stands for, your purpose. There's lots that you're already doing that probably people do not know. And telling that story helps to shape their perception and their opinions about you. And then if an issue, which is negative, occurs, it's a lot more easier because they do know you for the right reasons.
When is it too early to respond? In crisis situations, when is it too early to respond?
I guess I would say it will depend on the issue in itself. Because there are some issues that you want it to run its course, and there are some that you are best responding as it happens. But sometimes you need to ensure you've gathered the facts about the issues, so you speak truth to the issues. And that's where probably when you rush in and you have not understand the full, the complements of the issues, that's where if you put up a statement today and you realize that actually I didn't get the facts yesterday, you are going to reverse that decision. Now that's where somebody says you're actually either controlling or manipulating or the story. So it depends. There are some that it's not worth responding to. You don't jump and respond to every single issue that is put out there. And there are some but that's why when you work together, you normally would proactively develop an issue management scenarios, readiness for many of such things. So as and when you must respond, you do that appropriately.
Now, Emma, companies now have multiple social accounts, feedback and sentiments are coming in real time. And one of the things that often irks me about a lot of companies is when we constantly see people complaining about the fact that, you know, the only thing that those companies post are stuff that they're doing, and sometimes never respond, for example, to sentiments and questions from the public. As PR practitioners in the room today, and for those who are probably joining on whichever platforms they are, how do we balance it? That, you know, as was said a few minutes ago, it's not everything you respond to, but you must be seen as communicating and having an interaction. That's what the social media platform is for. So if you're going to be on that platform, you must be seen as interacting. And so at which points do you not respond? And how do we sort of decide, or what are some of the things that we can put in mind to help us decide when to respond and when not to respond?
I think, like you mentioned, as long as you're on social media, you need to be able to, and the reason why you're there is to be able to interact with your audience, to engage with them, to give them solutions to some of the issues they're facing, and immediately your audience see that you're not responding to them, they're going to walk away. So ideally, you should be able to have, you know, there's certain things, especially if you're a brand that, let's say, are frequently asked questions, or there are frequently complaints that you've noticed. So as PR professionals, what we need to do is to be able to put together that communication or issues management document that Esilfor just mentioned. Because at the end of the day, if you don't engage with your audience, it means that you're not being the reason why they're there with you. So any organization that is on social media, first of all, you need to be able to have your own content. Definitely, you're going to be selling something, you're going to be promoting your event, you're going to be promoting a certain account that you want if you're a financial institution, but also every other day, there'll be people who will be complaining about perhaps that your ATM is not working, or they cannot be able to watch you in Koforijo, and how are you able to respond? The most important thing nowadays is actually to have that one information that if somebody asks a question, you just say, okay, thank you for reaching out to us. We will get back to you as soon as possible. I think that is much better than ignoring the person fully. Or I've seen a lot of organizations also saying, thank you for reaching out. Can we talk to you in your DM and answer your information as soon as possible?
That really gets to me.
Yes,
it's like
it gets to everybody. Get into the DM, get in the DM. But it's much better, Philip, than ignoring many people who are trying to get information from you. Once you keep quiet, there's always that perception like you're trying to hide something. And honestly, there's nothing you're trying to hide. The only challenge we have as organizations, and all of us on social media, we just do not want to say the wrong thing, and then somebody else will jump at it. And that's where we're always like, okay, we're controlling that narrative. We're controlling that narrative. We're telling the person, this is an issue that is particular to you. Why don't we address you one-on-one? And the only way we can be able to address you one-on-one is, in your DM, because we cannot be able to physically be present to everybody. But I always advise that once you're able to monitor, and there are certain things that are constantly recurring, you and your digital team, your PR team, should be able to develop that issues management answers, for example, that we know that if you're able to do this, somebody can be able to answer this way.
Is there a space, for example, when someone does DM you eventually, shares their challenge with you, is there a space within this social network, family and fraternity that we belong to actually use those situations as potential storylines to sort of give people better perspective about the services that we give? Because yes, it might be peculiar to this person asking this question, but other people might be experiencing something similar.
Absolutely, and that is how some of these people actually become even your ambassadors, because you've been able to solve their issue and they're satisfied. Don't forget, we're living in a world right now where social media has become a place where we go to just rant, because we've become so faceless, and a lot of these accounts are actually faceless, and they're out there even just to bring negativity to our brand. But if you get a really real issue where you're able to solve Philip's issue, and Philip is able to understand that this is actually how it happened, and as GMA, this is how we do 1, 2, 3 things, and he's satisfied and he's content, it is an opportunity for you to even utilize him as one of your influencers, one of your ambassadors, to be able to sell your message to other people. It's easier sometimes to hear from Philip, who is even less known, than to hear from somebody who is a bigger name, who people nowadays feel like, oh, they've been paid to say X, Y, Z. So if you're using somebody who is not known and has actually really, really gone through the cracks and is able to sell your message, I think it's a really good opportunity for organizations to capitalize on that and tell their story the way they want to tell their story.
We are going to open up the space for questions. If anyone has a question, please just put up your hand. I have one more question for Adelaide, but if you have a question, just put up your hand. We'll bring a microphone over to you, and then we'll take your questions. Adelaide, obviously, as PR practitioners, head of corporate relations or corporate communications, there are obviously aspirations of us becoming CEOs like yourself. When we do get to that position, or potentially when we have those aspirations, what are some of the practical things that PR practitioners can start doing in the early stages, for example, of their career, to prepare them for potentially those moments when they can put themselves up for positions like CEO of businesses and things like that? Because I'm sure there are very, very ambitious people in this room and doing the watching as well.
For me, I see that as a very likely path. And for a practicing PR marketing person, and looking at what CEOs represent, that is representing the company, being the most visible person within the organization, I think that these are things that the people are already doing. So now it's then about you looking at where the business wants to go, what the strategy is, how do we integrate our communication so that it's no longer, and I really liked what Nana Isofwa said about it's not a fight or it's not a clash, it's one team. If you're able to work together as a team and look at where the business wants to go, what the strategy is. And another key thing is taking the learnings. I'm a very analytical person, so it's about measuring. If you do something and this didn't work, do we go back, evaluate that activity and take the learning so that we can move forward? So for me, I see the PR teams as very likely to rise to the corporate ladder just because of the exposure that
sometimes it doesn't
have.
feel like it, though. Nana.
You could see I was itching to add something to it.
I can.
Let me just sit properly. For anybody to manage a business, it's not simply the PR role only. Remember, you can always hire a good PR and a communication strategist if you're a CEO to help you do that job. But I think for anybody who wishes to be a CEO of that organization will be either managing, manufacturing, dealing in something. So first, you've got to understand the business, the ecosystem of that business. Because remember, you'll be leading the organization. So the very foundation and what the business represents, you must understand it. I think when Ernest, and I've known Ernest for quite a bit, if Ernest doesn't understand the landscape of the industry, I'm not sure he can be a CEO of GMA. So I think early on, if you are in PR and this, you have to understand that that's a strand that probably the organization is using, but then you must immerse yourself in the other areas of the business so that you are a lot more, how do I say, more credible and stronger. Because remember, there are others who may compete with you for the CEO role who are more well-versed or understand the business a lot more stronger than you.
Like
so be more
commercial
versatile.
directors and everybody.
Exactly. And understanding the businesses from a commercial sense, understanding your consumers. Because I can always hire a PR and a communication strategist to do that aspect for me. But I may still not understand the business.
That's a powerful one. Thank you for that. Any questions in the room? Does anyone have any questions? You can just put up your hand. We'll bring a microphone over to you, and then we can. So we have a question in the back. All right. So yes, we're bringing a microphone over to you. So we have a question in the back. So just put up your hand, and then the microphone will come to you.
Hi, good morning. My name is Steven from... Can you hear me? Yeah. My name is Steven from solution to that particular problem. Than to go through to the DM, and I are saying that the person has to be an influencer, meaning that if I also comment, the notification has to be sent to that particular person. What if the person is very busy? I might not necessarily see that notification. What happens? Because there will be a time breach. Because the person has to see before he or she has to give that particular answer that was given to him by the PR of that company. Don't you think answering it there and then helps rather than this DM thing?
Yes, absolutely. I mentioned that if we have that, there's some questions that you can answer then, definitely there's no need for us to go to the DM. But if there are certain questions that, for example, you do not have the solutions at that point, right? You should be able to acknowledge that you have seen this question, go back, and then if it can be answered on the timeline, well and good. But if it's something that is going to be a back and forth, you also do not want to use your company account having a back and forth with a client. You get it. And that's why you also don't want to have, because the other people looking at it, you don't have to have Global Media Alliance account is going back and forth with Eric, for example. It doesn't show the professionalism. So if there are certain things that Eric has not understood from the responses given, then we can say, Eric, do you mind for us to continue the conversation on DM? But if it's something like, where are your offices located? I'm trying to call your number and there's nobody picking. Definitely there's no need for us to go to the DM. It's very easy for us to say we're located in Airport West and this is where you can find us. Yes.
Okay. Yes, please.
So I'd like to give an example from HD Plus. So about 2-3 months ago, we had a customer who was very angry, sent a comment to one of our posts and accused us. So we had a World Cup promo and given out some flat screen TVs. And this customer accused us of giving him a TV with a broken screen. And initially, the team reached out to me to say, we want to just tell him that it's his fault, right? He got home and probably through the transportation process, the TV got broken. And I said, no. For him to be that angry, there's a story behind it. So they reached out to him. It was actually a phone call because they asked for his phone number. And apparently he was so excited about winning the TV that he gave his old TV to his mother. and he had no TV, and he had to watch the World Cup. So this is where the emotions came in, and we said, look, how much does it cost to replace this TV this guy? And we did. And for me, this was something we earned because he came back onto our social media page, Facebook, to applaud HD Plus for how compassionate and caring the brand is. So for me, it's not always important to rush to give an answer. It's better to interact with the customer and understand things. That is where empathy comes in. And this is what customers appreciate in this modern times.
Any other? Oh, yes, we have a question.
Thank you very much. My name is Foster J. My question is more or less about technical aspects. So in a situation where, as an engineer, you are providing a service to an institution or a client, and then along the way you encounter some challenges, and then you are supposed to explain to the client the situation. But since you are a technical person, you end up talking in a technical way the person will not understand. And then as the PR also goes in, they give them some kind of hope that it's going to work. And at the end of the day, they bring pressure to you, the engineer, not knowing the actual situation at hand. So in this case, how do you bridge the gap between the engineer and the PR? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And I completely see where you're coming from. Well, especially when the technicalities are so much, because honestly, you don't even know how else to explain it without using the technicalities. I think that's a brilliant question. I don't know if any of...
Anyway, if I may, and I'm sure my other colleagues will, I think communication in itself, the mode in which you communicate and the language that you use is very critical. If I'm speaking to a non-technical person, the question is, how do I manage to break down the language so that either I understand the technical person or the technical person understands my brofo? Because it's not just English. In communication, I have to have a meaning of the communication. So it's my intended, meaning, and then you also have to have the perceived. Exactly. So in between, we call it noise. So you have to ensure that I understand the audience, who am I dealing with, and what kind of communication, the language, will I use best for there to be an understanding. And so that's very critical. And sometimes, even if it means it's vernacular, it is vernacular. If it's English, it is English. Any mode that will get my communication across. That's what I need to ensure that it's happening, so that the engineer, who is very technical, understands, where the organization is coming from.
And I think one of the things you might want to do at some point, even if it means doing one-on-one conversation with the PR person, for that person to appreciate and then relay the message to the others, that would be helpful. Let me say that this is where I fell in love with Madame Esther Koba when she was the PR person for GNPC. My goodness. She could break down stuff. And you sit back and you're wondering, is she a communications person? Is she an engineer? Is she a petrochemical engineer? What is she? But you have to know what you're talking about. So sometimes having that interpersonal conversation with the PR person, breaking it down to that person's understanding, for that person to be able to explain it to the others. You might not be able to do that because of the technicality, but that person will be able to appreciate it better, use a language that will be more understandable for the others. Then some peace can prevail. You might need to do that at some point.
That's brilliant advice.
Can I just add something?
Yes, please.
Yes. Just also, another important thing is to know who your audience is. I see a lot of my colleagues from the agency side of the business, and in the agency side of the business, we're all communicators, but our clients come from diverse industries. So you have a client from the financial sector, you have a client from the telco, and the thing they do that is really good for us is the integrators to understand their language. Because at the end of the day, when we are writing the releases, we have to write them as a telco person. You have to write them as a banker. So you as an engineer needs to sit down with a communication person. You understand that they understand communication, you understand technicality, and then marry those two and see how best to understand. Because your audience out there, most of them will not understand the technical language. Yeah.
Do we have any more questions in the room? Yes, we have one. Yeah. Please go ahead.
My name is Nathaniel Nati. So my question is actually an exam question from GIG. That was answered some time ago.
Oh, you have already written it. I thought it was.
So as a PR person, who are you more accountable to? The organization that pays your salary or the client that purchases or patronizes the services of the organization for your salary to be paid? Thank you.
Who asked that question?
That's an appropriate exam question. I like it. How many points were given for that answer? 30 points.
No, I think that it's a very dicey question. In the sense that somebody employed you to do a job for them. Now, I've seen my president at the back there smiling, so I'm sure you'll pick up the microphone and help us along the line. Because at the end of the day, as you said, our first our allegiance is to the customer. Because without the customer, there is no business. You understand? Without the customer, there is no business. But then there is somebody who is also paying your salary. And without a customer, the person's money will not come for them to pay your salary. So you, the PR person, you're caught in the middle. What is the issue about? What is the issue about? One, you have to understand the person who employed you, what their perspective is, what they want you to do. If it is something that you think you can work with and explain to the customer, why don't you take their perspective and share with the customer for the customer to appreciate where you are also coming from? You don't have to be like a polygamous man. You are in between two women. Do you go to Nana or you go to Emma? If you are not careful, Emma will be angry. And then if you are not careful, Nana will leave. In your heart, you love both of them equally. So how do you go about it? I think it's important to appreciate everybody's point of view and be able to deal with them at that level. Your responsibility is to build the relationship. What is the language? How are you communicating what she is saying to her without creating any conflict? You understand? So you owe allegiance to both of them, and you need to appreciate both of them, where they are coming from. Then you can get a common grounds to be able to communicate well, so you don't lose any of them. This love, it's a beautiful love story. You don't have to lose any of them.
Adelaide, you said you had something to
Yes,
add?
I'd like to add to this question. For me, it's about understanding what the company's values are. Because if you see a misalignment between your values and the company values, this is when such issues arise. And in my practice, every meeting that we are starting with, I'm checking with the team to understand if we're all aligned on the values. And for me, that's a very important place to start. And I'm talking about this from a leadership point of view, that it's important that we set the values and ensure that the company values are known across board. And this then reassures, whether it's PR, whether it's marketing, engineering, whoever, to know that they are in the safe space and they actually live in the values the way it's supposed to be.
Would you like to add something?
If I heard the gentleman right, I think he was asking who pays you.
No, the business pays
Yes.
you, right?
No. Yes, but I think one of the things we always have to remember that if I'm in business and I have customers, who patronize my service, one who actually pays you is the customer. That's something that's very fundamental, and sometimes we tend to flip it and say it's my organization that pays you. But remember, without the custom, there's no business. So we are all then enablers, who are actually just disseminating the purpose of the organization. So first allegiance is to that customer of the business. So there's no way that because I wasn't sure if there's no way that there can be a conflict, because from an organizational point of view, you are part of the organization. You are an advocate for the organization, an ambassador for the organization, with the sole interest of maintaining, either attracting or maintaining the customer. And therefore, whatever you are communicating to the customer would actually be in the interest of the organization, and ensuring that through that engagement, that communication, you maintain the customer. And then that customer, as I think Emma alluded to earlier, depending on how it's managed, will become, your advocate.
We'll take one more question and then we'll wrap it up. We have a lady in the front. No, let's take the lady in the front. I like her braids. So we have a question in the front. No, the lady is here. She's here. Don't go far. She's here. This one.
Hi. So I'm Isabel. I have a 2-in-1 question. I want to find out how.
Can you please speak up a bit for us?
Can you hear me now?
Can you speak up a bit for us, please?
Okay. So I'm Isabel. I have a 2-in-1 question. So I want to find out how you measure the success of your PR efforts, and if you can you provide any insights to how you tailor and reach your audience effectively?
Could you
Measurement
repeat the
and
past?
evaluation.
Okay, so maybe I can start. So for each of your PR campaigns or communication campaigns, you have certain objectives, right? The easiest way to measure whether that campaign is effective is to go back to those objectives or your KPIs and see what has been met. So let's say, for example, you have a new brand in the market that wants to sell airtime, right? And they're trying to sell to reach at least the golden triangle. That is one of the KPIs, for them to be able to reach Accra, Kumasi, and Takoradi. For you to know whether it's effective, you go back to that objective and check, have we been able to reach at least the 3 regions that we tried to reach? Another of your objectives can be, we want to have 1,000 social media followers on our page, right? If you do not get 1,000, it means that KPI has not been reached, and therefore it is not effective. So how you can be able to monitor this is now to go back to your audience with audience segmentation. Definitely, yes. So which people did you want to reach? You wanted to reach people in the cities versus people who are not in the cities, in the outskirts. You can go back to them, and when Abigail talked about having evaluation, you talk to the people who, let's say, patronized you and ask them, why did you patronize us? Through which channels did you reach us? Which channel can we improve on more? That can be another basis for you to improve your campaign going forward. I'm sure colleagues will add other aspects of that.
Yeah, so I think that it's important that you even include the measurement bit into your planning, right from the planning stage, as you said. You set your objectives. So by the time you're done, you know that this is what I wanted to achieve. The thing that makes PR sometimes erratic is the fact that when you want to create awareness, how much awareness have you been able to create? How would you know that? I think once in a while you have to go back to surveys and others to check, have you heard about this and stuff like that. So it's very important that you go back to the very people you're trying to engage. And sometimes you want to see, have I made any impact at all? Once in a while you see, once you do the survey, you'll be able to tell. And for some activities, because it has to do with mindset change, it takes a long time for you to see the change happening. Because you're not just communicating for the communication's sake. You're communicating to make impact, to kind of and get some kind of feedback, some kind of action being taken. So with time, once you keep doing it and go back with service and others, you realize that actions are being taken, and then you can say that you have succeeded. But you have to work with the people you want to touch. Yeah.
All right. And with that, I'd like to say a big thank you to the members of the panel. Thank you so much. Nana, Adelaide, Emma, and Sophia, thank you so much for the insights given. And the panel members will be around. Most of them will be around till, at the end of the program. There's a networking phase as well. So if you have some specific questions, you can approach any of them and put your questions to them. Thank you once again so much. And thank you for being an amazing audience once again. Thank you. And handing over to my MC for today.
Thank you very much. Philip, please let's put our hands together for the powerful women you see here. Did you notice that all the women here are into leadership? And that's where we want to find ourselves as time goes on, having women in leadership. Okay. At this point in time, we're going to be taking a goodwill message, because this industry is actually guided by a particular body that we really respect and admire. And we want to say a very big thank you to them for deciding to put such a good group together. Join me as I make welcome to make a goodwill message to us, the president of IPR Ghana, Mr. Mawoko Afajinu.
Hello. Hi, I see a lot of familiar faces and friends. Maybe you should be doing this a lot more. Associating myself with all the protocols, I bring you a good message. And I underline and bolding goodwill message. Otherwise, I have a few things to say. If you permit me, in the spirit of goodwill, let me talk to some of the issues raised and also, again, deal with the topic under discussion, harnessing the power of public relations. Now, I like the question, and let me start from that one. I like the question about the technical issues and reviews with them. And I'm going to pivot on that to start this conversation. The truth of the matter, I believe, the heart of the matter, rather, I believe, is it depends on who we are talking to. If you're talking to a room full of technical people who can connect with the technical language, maybe, just maybe, a technical person will be ideal. But ultimately, remember that the purpose of communication is to communicate well. And that only happens when the end listener gets and understands what you are saying. And that's the reason why some very clever person a long time ago said simplicity is at the heart of wisdom. And brevity is the mother of wit. And so if you can say it very simply and very clearly, you can keep it short and succinct, I tell you, you have it. But coming back to what I really want to talk about. The heart of the matter, I believe, is that, and my colleague said it so well, you cannot tap into the power of public relations without trust, without expertise, combining to give you credibility. And that's the reason why, as a people and as practitioners of public relations, we are not particularly in a good place. Why do I say that? I circle back, and I'm sure all of you read it or saw it or heard about it. CDD's Afrobarometer report for 2022. And they look at two things primarily. They look at corruption. I'm not going to talk about corruption. But they also, importantly, center on trust. Now, the trust tracker shows a very disturbing and worrying sign in our country. Virtually every institution of importance, you and me, we say we don't trust them. Virtually. The honorables across here, between, I believe they started from 99, between 99 and 2020, they have dropped. Around 99, we said at least half of us said we trusted them, more than half. At the last count, it had dropped to 22%, which means if you take every 10 people, nearly 8 says we don't trust them. About the same number says we don't trust our president. Neither do we, and about 7 say we don't trust the judiciary. Police is somewhere there. Apparently, the only, before we talk even more, I would tell my friends at Afrobarometer that next time they should add PR practitioners. Because we are talking about others, but it would be very instructive to get an indication of what our people and our peers and our bosses think about us. Because ultimately, the core currency of public relations is trust. And without that, as the Bible says, you labor in vain. So no matter how you shape or you influence or you control the narrative, and again, each of us, we have friends we like to talk to, and we can spend time with, but we don't take them serious, don't you? This lady, maybe I'll spend time with her, but I know that she's an interesting company, but you don't take her money, her word to the bank. No, you run into huge deficits. So there are people we like to talk to, but we don't trust them. But those we trust, when they say jump, we are thinking how much higher, because it's going to lead to good returns. So without trust, we don't have a profession. And that's the reason why I would encourage all of us, everywhere we are, to start building on that. And as a nation, maybe it's about time to start a conversation on what our moral code is. And whether it's time to go back and rebuild our moral code. Because we can't have a country where nobody believes in anyone. That is the bane, and that will be the death of PR. So how do we work and how do we turn it around? I guess that was the essence of the conversation. And the first thing we need to do is just to go back to the basics. Trust and expertise are the heart of public relations. Once they are in place, we can start harnessing the power of public relations. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Fajinu, President of IPR. Please, we'll be taking a word from our host. We want to say a very big thank you to the Ghana Inject Kofi Annan Center of ICT for giving us their venue to have this very beautiful summit. And to give us this word is the Director of Finance and Administration, Mr. Stephen Bafo. Please, let's put our hands together for him.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. And I want to thank the MC for the opportunity to say something, because we are hosting this very important event. And when I say we, when I say we, I mean the Ghana India Kofi Annan Center of Excellence in ICT. We just want to thank you for this opportunity, and I'm making the remark on behalf of the Director General, Dr. Collins Yeboah Afari. I believe very strongly that once a day has been set aside to recognize the practice of PR worldwide, tells the story about how powerful public relations as a profession is. And I think that in this recognition, the theme for today's celebration is apt. It's apt because the public relations practitioner, whether you like it or not, is a very important player in the management of businesses, whether public or private. The power of the public relations practitioner and the practice is not in the individual himself or herself, but it's about the value that this individual brings to the table in achieving organizational goals and eventually raising the bottom line. Businesses exist to raise bottom line. But in raising bottom line, it is also important for businesses to cultivate relationships between the business and their audiences. And that is where the power is. When I entered, the president of the IPR was talking about some of the things that the practitioner needs to recognize, especially in an environment that is changing so rapidly. And that brings me to the point where the Ghana India Professional Center of Excellence in ICT is important, because the evolution of IT and technology in general is stretching what the public relations practitioner must understand, must do for him or her to become relevant in the practice of the profession. And as a center of excellence in ICT, we find building capacity, helping people to appreciate the role of IT in their various professions very, very important. And that is what we do best. And that is why the relationship that we have with the public relations fraternity is also important to us. Needless to say that the Director General and the management have already decided that our doors are opened to public relations practitioners in country who want to sharpen their skills in IT to help them better provide services to their organizations. So you are all welcome. To have an opportunity to taste the training that we provide here and how that training can further help you to do your work. As I said previously, the theme for today's celebration is the power, harnessing the power of public relations. In our environment, the economic environment, the political environment, the religious environment that we find ourselves today, calls on the PR practitioner to look at ways and means by which various stakeholders can be brought around a certain important national issue and to shed light on those issues for nation building. I believe very strongly that no matter how powerful public relations is, if businesses are not making profits and are not cultivating relationships with their audiences that make the businesses thrive and for the well-being of society, that power will be meaningless. So let us use the power that public relations provides each one of you as practitioners to think about what can we do differently to make our situation better? How can we shape public opinion? How can we shape public discourse? How are we able to bring urgency to bear on the issues that our publics need to understand and need to also police around? Every public relations practitioner, I believe, must be an inquirer. Must be someone who is digging every day to find out what the new trends are, what the new perspectives are, and how technology can be used to drive these new trends and perspectives. Ghana has a lot to think about, and I believe the public relations practitioner has a very important role to play in what we think about, what concerns us as a nation, and what worries us as we go to bed. May the opportunity that this day presents us in celebrating the World Public Relations Day also re-energize us and refocus our professional practice to bring this beautiful country of ours to a place where both young and old will feel that this is our country. This is our motherland. This is a place where we've been put to make lives better and to also create an environment that allows businesses to flourish. Having said this, ladies and gentlemen, as the hosts, let me once again say Akpaba to our facility, a very modest one. If you were looking to see very huge buildings and stuff, you were making a mistake. When I first came here and they were talking about labs, and from my background as a teacher, I thought I was going to see labs like I saw in secondary schools and stuff. Unfortunately, that was not the case. The labs were just on their laptops and desktops. So anytime they said, are we going to the labs? I go there now. I don't see anything. So please, don't be worried that you do not find big facilities and flamboyant stuff. What is most important is the power that through ICT we place in your hands for you to be powerful in your professional practice. I wish you a very beautiful celebration, and God bless us all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. I am excited about what's going to be happening right after now. And this is because we have a specially curated music playlist for World PR Day Festival in partnership with Africa's biggest music streaming platform, Boomplay. The playlist has songs from top 10 Ghanaian artists who have harnessed the power of PR to promote their music career this year. It is called World PR Day Festival Jams. Let's put our hands together for Boomplay and for GMA for putting together this particular playlist. So to have access to it, you just need to go on to Boomplay and then you type in WPRD Festival Jams and you get to listen to it. But Mr. DJ, do we have an opportunity to have a reel of... Okay, so time is fast spent. We're going to be making presentations of some citations. So just take a gentle breather while we put it together. Please, some music. Mr. Ernest Boateng. The first citation goes to Madame Sophia Kudochi. The next one goes to Emma Wenani. Let's welcome Adelaide Abiu Williams for her citation. The next one goes to Nana Esilfua Tabaklo. Please let's welcome the Director General for Ghana Angel Kofi Annan Center of Excellence. Thank you very much, Mr. Boateng. So at this time, Emma Wanani, please come up to make the next presentation. And to receive this presentation on behalf of the Honorable Minister is Madame Charlotte Morgan Asiedu, Chief Director, Ministry of Information. Thank you very much. Please, a round of applause for all our recipients. And we have gotten to almost the end of today's conversation. And just a reminder that World PR Day Festival is a day when PR professionals come together to have a unified global agenda towards making the world understand and utilize PR better. Crowning this year's World PR Day Festival is a summit with key focus on creating an environment for industry players and practitioners to engage in discussions that will center on utilizing PR to achieve business objectives. And I want to believe that those of us who are here and those who were watching online have been able to understand the power that we need to be able to harness PR in our society, in our community, at home, in everything that we do. I want to say a very big thank you on behalf of Global Media Alliance, and also want to say a big thank you to all those who supported this initiative, the brands and the media partners. I'd like to mention Customers Innovation Center, MultiChoice Ghana, Women in PR Ghana, DH+, PwC Ghana, HSAPR, Nubiki Foundation, Ghana Angel Kofi Annan Center of Excellence in ICT, Macintosh Africa, Jameson, Perception Management International, and Crux Global. Our media partners are YFM, CTFM, Business and Financial Times, Happy FM, Ghana Web, Silverbird Cinemas, Business 24, and Investment Times. And we'd like also to say a very big thank you to you for making the festival a success. Please put your hands together for yourself. And my name is Eunice Tony, the host of African Women's Voices Show and the staff of Global Media Alliance. We are very grateful. So we take pictures right now, and somehow, Mr. Photographer, is there a way all of us can come up and take a group picture so that we can really know that, yes, we made this happen, the first festival that ever happened for World PR Day? Would that be too much to ask? It's possible, right? Okay, so please, let's have the CEO and the panelists and Madame Charlotte take theirs first. Mr. Fajinu, please join.